My phone buzzed against the kitchen island, lighting up with a message that would eventually cost my parents everything. It was a group text from my mother. Marjorie. Don't come. Only elites are invited. Before I could process the absurdity, a private follow-up arrived. Please don't make tonight about you. I stared at the screen, feeling 32 years of conditioning fracture. They didn't want me there, but as I would soon learn, they were already selling my name to the room. My phone vibrated against the marble countertop of my kitchen island, a harsh, mechanical buzz that sliced through the Saturday afternoon silence. I was 32 years old, a successful communications consultant with my own apartment in Harbor Crest and a roster of high-profile clients. Yet that specific vibration pattern still triggered a Pavlovian spike of adrenaline. It was the group chat my mother had created 3 years ago, titled simply, The Parkers. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and picked up the device. The screen was bright, the notification banner displaying a message from Marjorie Parker in all capital letters. Don't come. Only elites are invited. I stared at the words, blinking as if the pixels might rearrange themselves into something rational. Before I could even process the sheer absurdity of the command, a second message arrived, this time a private text from her, stripping away the performative audience of the group chat. Please don't make tonight about you. I let out a short, hollow laugh that echoed in my empty living room. It was classic Marjorie. She managed to be simultaneously aggressive and victimized within the span of 2 sentences. I had not asked to go. I did not even know what event she was referring to. I had been planning to spend my Saturday evening reviewing a crisis management strategy for a tech firm and perhaps ordering Thai food. I typed a response, then deleted it. I typed another, then deleted that too. My thumbs hovered over the glass. The familiar sting was rising in my chest, a heavy, suffocating weight I had carried since childhood. It was the feeling of being an accessory to their life, a prop that was either useful or embarrassing, with no middle ground. My phone lit up again. It was Tessa Moreno, my best friend since sophomore year of college, and the only person who truly understood the intricate, gilded cage of my upbringing. I picked up the call. Did you see what she posted on Facebook? Tessa asked, skipping the greeting. No, I said, leaning against the counter. I'm currently staring at a text telling me I am not elite enough to attend a party I was not invited to in the first place. Tessa groaned. She's unbelievable. Lillian, it is the Vanguard Civic Circle Gala. It is tonight, at the Branton House Hotel. I felt a cold prickle of recognition. The Branton House was the most expensive venue in the city, a place of crystal chandeliers and velvet drapery where old money Harbor Crest went to congratulate itself. The Vanguard Civic Circle was a new, aggressive philanthropic group that had popped up recently, promising exclusive access to the city's power brokers. My parents, Marjorie and Grant Parker, had been circling it like sharks sensing blood in the water. They actually got in? I asked. The membership fees are astronomical. They are there right now, or at least getting ready to be, Tessa said. And here's the kicker. Miles and I are going. His firm bought a table. You are going to the party I'm specifically banned from? I asked, the irony settling over me like a heavy blanket. I am, Tessa said, and I'm going to send you updates every 10 minutes because I have a feeling this is going to be a disaster. But Lillian, listen to me. Why would she text you that? Did you ask to go? I have not spoken to her in 3 days. I said, it was true, the last time we spoke. Marjorie had been complaining that my father's new luxury sedan had a scratch on the bumper and that the detailer was charging too much. It was the usual white noise of their lives, an obsession with appearances masking the rot underneath. I hung up with Tessa and walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window of my apartment. Outside, the Harbor Crest skyline was beginning to turn a dusty purple as evening approached. I loved this view. I paid for this view. Every dollar of my mortgage came from my own work, my own late nights, my own reputation. My parents lived in Meadow Ridge, a manicured suburb 20 minutes away where the lawns were measured with rulers and the debt was hidden behind oak doors. I tried to shake it off. I told myself it did not matter. If Marjorie and Grant wanted to play aristocrat at a ballroom gala while drowning in second mortgage paperwork, that was their business. I was an adult. I did not need to be included in their delusions. But the phone buzzed again. Tessa had sent a photo. It was a screenshot of the digital program for the evening, likely sent to guests in advance. The graphic design was elegant, navy blue and gold, with the Vanguard Civic Circle logo embossed at the top. I zoomed in on the text. It was a segment honoring community builders. There, in the third paragraph, was my name. The Parker family's legacy of service continues through their daughter, Lillian Parker, whose strategic vision has revitalized community partnerships across the district. I felt the air leave my lungs. Legacy of service? My parents had never volunteered for a soup kitchen in their lives unless a photographer was present. And the phrase strategic vision, that was my professional biography. That was the language I used on my consultancy website. I sat down on one of the bar stools, my stomach churning. They were using me. They were using my career, my actual hard work, to buy credibility for themselves. I dialed my brother, Ethan. He picked up on the second ring. His voice hushed. "Hey, Lil," he whispered. "I can't really talk long. Mom is in full panic mode about her hair." "Where are you?" I asked. "I am in the guest room," he said. "I am just trying to keep my head down until we have to leave. They have the limo coming in 20 minutes. Ethan was 26, a sweet, soft-spoken guy who worked in logistics and spent most of his energy trying not to trigger our parents' explosive tempers. He had learned early on that visibility equaled liability. "Ethan, did you know I am in the program?" I asked. There was a pause on the line, a long, guilty silence. "Yeah," he said softly. "I saw the proof last week." "And you didn't tell me?" "Lil, what was I supposed to do? Tell you they are pretending you are part of their team?" He lowered his voice even further. "They have been practicing introductions. Lillian, I heard Dad in the mirror. He has a whole bit about how he guided your career. He is telling people he consults on your major projects." My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. He said, "What?" "They are desperate." "Lil," Ethan said, "they took out a loan to cover the Vanguard donor tier. A big one. They need this night to pay off. They need people to think we are significant, and you are the only thing we have that actually looks like success." The line clicked. "Mom is yelling for me," Ethan said. "I have to go." "I am sorry." He hung up. I sat there in the darkening kitchen, the silence ringing in my ears. It was not just a snub, it was theft. They had told me not to come because my physical presence would be a risk. If I was there, I might speak. I might contradict the narrative. I might reveal that Grant Parker had never consulted on anything more complex than a dinner menu, and even that usually ended in an argument with the waiter. I stood up and paced the length of the living room. I needed to focus. I was a professional. I handled PR crises for corporations. I could handle my own parents. Then I remembered the email from yesterday. It had come in late Friday afternoon from Sarah Jenkins, the director of Harborline Youth Arts. Harborline was one of my pro bono clients, a small but fierce nonprofit that provided arts education to at-risk teenagers. They had strict safeguarding policies and a very low tolerance for performative charity. I had spent 6 months building their trust, helping them secure a grant from the city. I grabbed my laptop and opened my email client. Searching for Sarah's name, there it was. Subject: exciting news. "Hi Lillian. Just wanted to send a quick note before the weekend. I ran into a board member from Vanguard yesterday who mentioned your family is being honored at the gala. I didn't realize the Parkers were the driving force behind the new initiative. It is great to know we have that kind of heavy-hitting support in your corner. Let's touch base Monday about the donor messaging. Best, Sarah." My stomach dropped. Harborline Youth Arts. My parents had been name-dropping my specific clients. They were not just claiming generic success. They were claiming ownership of relationships I had built on integrity and transparency. If my parents promised money or influence, they did not have to an organization like Harborline, and then failed to deliver. The blowback would not hit Marjorie and Grant. It would hit me. It would destroy my professional credibility. I looked back at my phone. The text from Marjorie still sat there. Don't come. She was right. I could not go. If I showed up now, angry and righteous, I would cause a scene. In their twisted logic, that would prove I was the unstable one. It would validate every whisper they had ever spread about me being difficult or dramatic. I needed to be smarter than them. I typed a reply to the group chat. I kept it brief, devoid of emotion. A gray rock in the face of their tidal wave. Got it. I won't come. Have a great night. I watched the screen. 3 seconds later, a notification popped up. Marjorie had liked the message. A thumbs-up icon appeared next to my surrender. It was the digital equivalent of patting a dog on the head for staying off the furniture. I put the phone down and walked into the kitchen to pour a glass of wine. My hand was shaking slightly. I was 32, and they could still make me feel like a child standing outside a locked door. The hours ticked by. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I ordered food but didn't eat it. I sat on my sofa, wrapped in a cashmere throw, staring at the glittering lights of Harbor Crest. From here, the city looked peaceful, but down there, in the Branton House ballroom, my reputation was being chopped up and served as an appetizer. At 8:30, Tessa's texts began to arrive in a flurry. Text 1. The flowers alone cost more than my car. This is insane. Text 2. Your mom is wearing that emerald dress she bought for the cruise she never took. She is holding court near the bar. Text 3. Okay. Weird vibe. A guy just asked your dad where you were. I heard him say, Oh, Lillian? She is traveling for work. Geneva. I think. Lillian, you are literally in your apartment. I stared at the message. Geneva. It was such a specific, unnecessary lie. It made me sound exotic and distant. Too busy with international affairs to attend a local fundraiser. It erased me while elevating me. I typed back, I am eating cold noodles on my couch. Tessa replied, Marjorie is smiling so hard I think her face might crack. But people are asking, Lil, I have heard your name 3 times in 10 minutes. They are looking for you. Why? I typed. Tessa didn't reply for a moment. Then a photo came through. It was a picture of a display board set up in the pre-function area of the ballroom. It was a professional, glossy poster mounted on an easel. The header read, Parker Family Impact. Below the header were 3 bullet points. Spearheading the Harbor Line Youth Arts expansion, founding members of the Alderbrook Community Bridge Strategic Guidance for the District Literacy Project, I felt the blood drain from my face. Alderbrook. That was a corporate sponsor I had signed a contract with 2 months ago. It was a sensitive deal, involving strict non-disclosure agreements regarding their corporate social responsibility strategy. I was the lead consultant. My name was on the contract. My parents had absolutely zero connection to Alderbrook. If Alderbrook found out their brand was being used on a fundraising poster for a social club they had not vetted, they would sue, and they would sue me. I zoomed in on the photo. At the bottom of the poster, in smaller italicized text, it read, The Parker family is proud to leverage their private network to build a better Harbor Crest. They were claiming my client list as their private network. Something inside me shifted. For the last 4 hours, I had been feeling hurt. I had been feeling the familiar, dull ache of rejection, the sorrow of being the uninvited daughter. But as I looked at that poster, the hurt evaporated. It was replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. This was not social snobbery. This was not just my parents being embarrassing or narcissistic. This was appropriation. They were stealing my intellectual property. They were endangering my livelihood to secure a loan they couldn't afford, to impress people who didn't care about them. They were willing to burn my career to keep themselves warm for one night. I set the wine glass down on the coffee table. The self-pity was gone. I felt a sudden, intense need for evidence. I opened my laptop again. I didn't go to my email this time. I went to my cloud storage. I began to search. I typed in Vanguard. Nothing in my files. I typed in Parker Family. Nothing recent. Then I paused. I remembered a moment. 6 months ago, we had been at Sunday dinner. Marjorie had been unusually inquisitive about my work. She had asked to see what a professional proposal looks like, claiming she wanted to understand why I was always so busy. I had been flattered. I had been stupid. I had forwarded her a redacted draft of the Alderbrook proposal, just to show her the structure of a strategic campaign. I went to my sent folder. I scrolled back 6 months. There it was. Subject: Proposal Draft. For your eyes only. Attached was a PDF. I opened it. The language in the executive summary. Phrases like leveraging private networks and strategic guidance for district growth was identical to the phrases Tessa had quoted from the poster. They hadn't just used my name, they had plagiarized my work. I sat back, the glow of the screen illuminating the dark living room. My heart was hammering, not with fear, but with the rhythm of a war drum. I checked the time, 9:15. The gala was in full swing. Marjorie was probably laughing at a joke she didn't understand, clutching a glass of champagne, secure in the knowledge that she had successfully managed her daughter. She thought a text message was enough to keep me silent. She thought "don't come" was the end of the story. I looked at the photo of the poster one more time. I picked up my phone and texted Tessa. "Get me a clear picture of every single document on that table." Tessa replied instantly. "On it. What are you doing?" "I am working," I replied. I closed the messaging app and opened a new document on my laptop. I labeled it Timeline of Unauthorized Usage. If they wanted a legacy, I was going to give them one, but it wasn't going to be the one they printed on the program. I started typing. Entry 1, March 12th. Email correspondence with Marjorie Parker regarding Alderbrook proposal draft. Entry 2, July 15th. Text message from Grant Parker asking for the contact information of the Harbor Line director for a Christmas card. I was connecting the dots. Every innocent question, every proud parent moment over the last year, it had all been reconnaissance. They had been mining me for parts. I worked through the night, the city lights outside my window blurring into streaks of gold and red. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I just built the file. Page by page, receipt by receipt. By the time the sun began to creep over the horizon, turning the harbor gray, I had 17 pages of evidence. My parents wanted to be elites. They wanted to be players in the high-stakes world of reputation and influence. Be careful what you wish for, I whispered to the empty room. I closed the laptop. The game had changed. They thought they were attending a party. They didn't realize they had just walked into a courtroom, and I was the only witness who mattered. I woke up to a headache that felt like a physical object lodged behind my right eye. It was the specific, throbbing pain of caffeine withdrawal mixed with the adrenaline crash of a sleepless night. The sun was streaming through the blinds, casting stripes of aggressive white light across the pile of printed emails and contracts I had left scattered on the living room floor. I sat up, pushing the duvet aside. My phone was on the nightstand, plugged in, and the notification light was blinking a relentless, demanding green. I reached for it, wincing as the screen lit up. Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. I had missed 4 calls, all from a number I did not recognize. There was a voicemail. I pressed play and held the phone to my ear, swinging my legs out of bed. "Lillian, hello? It is Celeste Wynn calling from the Vanguard Civic Circle." The voice was smooth, cultivated, and rich, the kind of voice that sounded like it was wearing a silk scarf. "I am so sorry we missed you last night," Celeste continued. "Your parents mentioned you might be stopping by late, and I confess I was keeping an eye on the door. Everyone was asking for you. We are all so excited about the initiative. Give me a ring when you have a moment. We would love to get you on the calendar for the donor luncheon next week. Ciao." The message ended. I stared at the phone. My parents had told the executive director of the Vanguard Civic Circle that I might be stopping by late. This was after explicitly texting me, "Don't come and lying to guests that I was in Geneva." They were running 2 parallel narratives. One for the room, where I was the devoted daughter too busy saving the world to attend, and one for the leadership, where I was an active partner who had just unfortunately missed the party. It was chaotic, It was sloppy, and it was dangerous. I went to the kitchen and started the coffee maker. While it gurgled, I called Tessa. "I am already at the grind," Tessa said, answering on the first ring. "I have a table in the back corner. Get here. You need to hear the rest." "Give me 20 minutes," I said. The walk to the coffee shop was a blur. Harbor Crest on a Sunday morning was usually my favorite atmosphere. Quiet streets, the smell of salt air from the marina, the slow pace of people walking dogs. Today, it felt like a stage set I was about to be fired from. When I arrived, Tessa was already halfway through a latte. She looked tired. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and she was wearing sunglasses indoors, a testament to the open bar at the BRANTON house. I sat down. "Tell me," I said. Tessa took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were serious. "It is worse than I thought. Lil, it wasn't just social climbing, it was strategic." "Celeste Wynne left me a voicemail," I said. "She thinks I am coming to a luncheon." "That tracks," Tessa said, "because your parents were selling you like you were the main attraction. There was a moment around 10 o'clock. Do you know Dr. Roland Keswick?" "The biotech investor?" I asked. "Yes, he is huge. He doesn't usually do these social circuit things." "He was there," Tessa said, "and he was cornering your mother near the dessert station. I was standing right behind them, pretending to look for Miles." I heard him say, very clearly, "Marjorie, I admit I was skeptical about the circle, but when I saw Lillian was spearheading the community outreach, I signed the check. Her work with the outcome tracking at Harborline is exactly the kind of rigor we need." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Roland Keswick was not a man who threw money at parties. He was a data-driven philanthropist who demanded results. If he had given money to Vanguard based on my reputation, and that money was mismanaged, I would be the one he blamed. "What did she say?" I asked. "She froze," Tessa said. She looked like a deer in headlights. She clearly had no idea what outcome tracking meant. She just kept smiling and nodding and saying, "Oh, she is so passionate. She is just so passionate." It was painful. Lil, she couldn't answer a single question about the actual work. "And Grant?" I asked. "That is the part that made me want to throw my drink," Tessa said. "Your dad stepped in." He put his hand on Keswick's shoulder, which, by the way, Keswick clearly hated, and said, "Lillian prefers to stay behind the scenes. We manage her philanthropic strategy so she can focus on execution. We are the architects. She is the builder." I slammed my hand down on the table, rattling the silverware. "He did not say that." "Verbatim," Tessa said. "He told a billionaire investor that he manages your strategy, Grant Parker, who thinks strategy is buying a lottery ticket when the jackpot hits 100 million. I leaned back in the chair, rubbing my temples. "This is fraud, Tessa. It is moral fraud, but it is bordering on actual fraud. If they are soliciting donations based on my involvement and I am not involved, that is theft by deception." "What are you going to do?" Tessa asked. "I need to see how deep it goes," I said. "I found the proposal draft in my sent folder last night. They plagiarized my work, but I need to see what Vanguard is putting out there publicly." I pulled my laptop out of my bag. I couldn't wait until I got home. I tethered it to my phone and opened a browser. "I am going to check my referral traffic," I said, logging into the analytics dashboard for my professional consultancy site. "What does that do?" Tessa asked, leaning over to look at the screen. "It tells me where visitors to my website are coming from," I explained. "If people at the gala were looking me up, I should see a spike." There was a spike, a massive one. My traffic was up 400% since last night. But it wasn't just direct searches. There was a referring link. The source URL was vanguardciviccircle.org/partners/Parker-initiative. My blood ran cold. "They have a page," I whispered. I clicked the link. The Vanguard Civic Circle website was sleek, designed in muted tones of slate and platinum. The page that loaded was titled The Parker Family Initiative. It was a masterclass in vague, corporate buzzwords. It described a multi-generational commitment to excellence and a holistic approach to community safeguarding. But there, in the sidebar, was a photo. It was a picture of me. It was not a family photo. It was my professional headshot, the one I had paid $800 for last year. The one that lived on my LinkedIn profile and my consultancy bio. Underneath the photo, the caption read, Lillian Parker, co-founder and strategic lead. They listed me as a co-founder, I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Tessa, look at this. Tessa looked. She gasped softly. Okay, that is bold. It is not bold, I said, snapping the laptop shut. It is a lie. I am not a founder. I am not a member. I was told not to come to the launch party. I stood up. I have to call them. Your parents? Yes, I said. Right now. I walked outside the coffee shop to the sidewalk. The fresh air did nothing to cool the heat rising in my face. I dialed my mother's number. She answered on the fourth ring. Her voice was groggy. Lillian? Why are you calling so early? We didn't get home until 2. Mom, I said, keeping my voice level, though it took every ounce of my professional training. I am looking at the Vanguard website. Why is my face on a page for something called the Parker Family Initiative? There was a pause. I could hear the rustle of sheets. Oh, don't be dramatic, Marjorie said. It is just a placeholder. Celeste's web person needed something to fill the space. It says I am a co-founder, I said. It says I am the strategic lead. You told me last night not to come. You told me I wasn't elite enough, and yet you are using my face to sell memberships. I did not say you weren't elite enough, Marjorie snapped, her tone shifting instantly from groggy to defensive. I said the event was for elites. There is a difference. And why are you attacking me? We just had the biggest night of our lives. Everyone loved us. Can't you just be happy for us for 1 second? This isn't about happiness. Mom, it is about business, I said. You are using my professional reputation to promise things you can't deliver. Did you tell Roland Keswick that you manage my strategy? We were making conversation, Marjorie cried. Grant was just trying to make you sound good. You are so ungrateful. We spend the whole night bragging about you, building you up. And you call me to scream about a website? You are always looking for a fight. Lillian, always. I am not screaming, I said, my voice dropping an octave. I am asking you to take it down. Here, she said. Talk to your father. I can't deal with your negativity this morning. There was a fumbling sound, and then Grant's voice came on the line. He sounded clearer, but guarded. Lillian, he said, what is the problem? The problem is that you are impersonating my business partners, I said. Dad, you cannot tell investors that you manage my work. That is a lie, and you cannot put my photo on a fundraising site I didn't authorize. It is just networking. Lil, Grant said, his voice dismissive. That is how the world works. You leverage what you have. We are opening doors for you. Do you know how many people asked for your card last night? You should be thanking us. I don't need you to open doors, I said. I built my own house. I need you to close this door. I need you to tell Celeste Wynn to take my name off that site. We can't do that, Grant said. And for the first time, I heard a crack in the bravado. There was fear there. We already signed the pledge commitment. It is part of the package. The family profile is required for the platinum tier. Then downgrade your tier, I said. We can't, he said sharply. It is done. Look, just let it ride for a few weeks. Once the initial funding comes in, we can adjust the wording. Just don't make a scene. Lillian. Please. He hung up. I stood on the sidewalk, staring at the phone. Just let it ride. My phone buzzed again. It was Ethan. I heard them yelling, Ethan said. His voice was a hurried whisper. Are you okay? No, I said. I am not okay. Ethan, what is going on? Why are they so desperate? Dad sounded terrified when I told him to change the tier. Ethan sighed. It was a long, jagged sound. They didn't just join the circle. Lil, they bought their way in with money they don't have. What do you mean? They took out a second mortgage on the house in Meadow Ridge, Ethan said. And they maxed out the credit lines. They put in $50,000 for the initiation fee and another $20,000 committed for the gala table. I closed my eyes. $70,000. They were drowning in debt, and they had just strapped an anchor to their ankles. Why? I asked. Why would they do that? Because the neighbors are moving, Ethan said. The Millers moved to a gated community in Florida, and the Davises bought that summer home in the vineyard. Mom and Dad feel left behind. They are terrified of looking ordinary. Lillian, they think this circle thing is going to connect them to real wealth. They think if they rub shoulders with people like Keswick, some of it will rub off, but they needed an asset to trade. They don't have money. They don't have a company. They have you. I am the currency, I said, feeling sick. Exactly, Ethan said. You are the membership card. If you pull out, they look like frauds, and they lose the money. They are trapped. They are not the only ones trapped, I said. Ethan, I have to fix this. Just be careful, he said. Mom is already spinning it. She is telling Aunt Carol that you are having a breakdown. I hung up and walked back into the coffee shop. I packed up my laptop. Where are you going? Tessa asked. Home, I said. I have to call Celeste Wynn, and I have to record the call. Back in my apartment, I set up my workspace. I put the phone on speaker and opened a recording app on my laptop. I needed a paper trail. If this went south, I needed proof that I had tried to stop it. I dialed the number Celeste had left on the voicemail. Celeste Wynn, she answered on the second ring. Celeste, this is Lillian Parker, I said. I kept my voice professional, warm but firm. The consultant voice. Lillian, so glad you called back, she said. Did you check your calendar for the luncheon? I am actually calling about the website, I said. I was looking at the Parker Family Initiative page this morning. There seems to be a misunderstanding. I am listed as a co-founder and strategic lead. Yes, Celeste said brightly. The profile looks fantastic, doesn't it? Your mother sent over that headshot. It really pops against the slate background. The issue, Celeste, is that I am not a co-founder, I said. I was not aware this initiative existed until this morning. I did not agree to be the strategic lead, and I cannot have my professional bio used for fundraising without a legal agreement. There was a silence on the other end. It lasted 3 seconds too long. When Celeste spoke again, the warmth had cooled by 10 degrees. Well, Lillian, she said, her tone taking on a patronizing edge. The Vanguard Civic Circle operates on a family-first philosophy. We assume alignment when a family applies for the platinum tier. Your parents were very clear that this was a joint venture. Are you saying your family is disjointed? She made the word disjointed sound like a disease. I am saying that I am an independent consultant with my own legal entities, I said. And my name and likeness are being used without my consent. I need the page taken down. Celeste, today, I understand you are feeling particular, Celeste said, but we have already printed the donor packets for the month. Retracting materials now would look very messy for your parents. It might raise questions about their stability. Are you sure you want to do that to them? It was a threat, a polite, velvet-wrapped threat. Play along, or we destroy your parents' social standing. I need the page down, I repeated. I will follow up with an email to confirm this request. I will see what I can do, Celeste said, her voice now completely flat. But these things take time to root through IT. We operate on introductions. Lillian, we rely on trust. I hope you can get on the same page as your parents soon. She hung up. I saved the recording. Evasive. She was keeping the page up because it was making them money. She didn't care if it was true. She only cared if it was profitable. I spent the next 3 hours turning my apartment into a war room. I needed hard evidence. If Vanguard wouldn't listen to a polite request, they would have to listen to a cease and desist. But to send that, I needed to prove damages. I dug through my archives. I found the Alderbrook Consulting Group contract. I highlighted Clause 14, exclusivity of representation. It stated clearly that I, Lillian Parker, was the sole lead on the project and that the client's name could not be used for third-party promotion without written consent. My parents had put Alderbrook's name on a poster at the BRANTON house. That was a breach of contract. I found the emails with Harborline Youth Arts. I found the grant proposal I had written for them, the one Dr. Keswick had referenced. I compared the text of my proposal with the text on the Vanguard website. My proposal: implementing a longitudinal tracking system to measure youth engagement outcomes over a 24-month period. Vanguard website. The Parker Initiative implements longitudinal tracking to ensure engagement outcomes are met. It was a copy-paste job. They had stolen the methodology I developed. I was building a folder titled Unauthorized Use. It was growing terrifyingly thick. Then, at 4 o'clock, the complication arrived. It was an email notification. My heart stopped when I saw the sender. It was Marcus Thorne, the chairman of the board for Harborline Youth Arts. He was a serious man, a former federal judge who did not suffer fools. Subject: Vanguard Partnership Inquiry. Dear Lillian, I hope you are having a restful weekend. We received a call this afternoon from the Vanguard Civic Circle regarding the Parker Family Initiative. They indicated that moving forward, your pro bono work with Harborline would be folded into the Vanguard portfolio as a signature project directed by your father, Grant Parker. They mentioned this would streamline the funding channels. However, the board is concerned. Our safeguarding policies require strict vetting of all directing partners. We have not vetted Grant Parker or the Vanguard Circle. Can you clarify if you are still the primary lead, or are we now reporting to your father? If the leadership structure has changed, we will need to pause our current operations pending a review. Regards, Marcus Thorne. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Pause operations. That meant I would lose the contract. That meant the reputation I had spent a decade building, the reputation of being reliable, ethical, and independent, was about to be torched because my father wanted to play big shot. Grant had told them he was directing the partnership. He had tried to seize control of my client to justify his lie. This wasn't just embarrassing anymore. This was an attack on my livelihood. I opened a new email window. I addressed it to Celeste Wynn and Marcus Thorne. I started typing. To whom it may concern, please be advised that the statements made regarding the Parker Family Initiative are false. I, Lillian Parker, am the sole proprietor of my consultancy. My parents, Grant and Marjorie Parker, have no authority over my business, my strategy, or my clients. They do not direct my partnerships. I stared at the blinking cursor. If I sent this, I was nuking them. I was exposing my parents as liars to a federal judge and the most powerful social club in the city. I was humiliating them publicly. I would be the daughter who destroyed her family for the sake of a contract. The second mortgage would be for nothing. They would be pariahs. I thought of Ethan's voice. They are terrified. I thought of Marjorie's voice. You are doing this to punish us. But then I looked at Marcus Thorne's email again. Pending a review. If I didn't send it, I was complicit. If I stayed silent, I was agreeing to the lie. And when the lie inevitably collapsed, because Grant could not run a youth arts program, I would be buried under the rubble with them. I saved the draft. I didn't press send. Not yet. I stood up and walked to the window. The sun was setting, casting long, bloody shadows across the city. I was holding the grenade. I just had to decide whether to throw it into the ballroom or drop it at my own feet. The drive to Meadow Ridge was a 20-minute journey that felt like traveling back in time to a version of myself I had spent a decade trying to erase. The suburbs outside Harbor Crest were designed to look peaceful, broad, curving streets lined with pin oaks, lawns so green they looked like astroturf, and houses that sat far back from the curb, guarding their secrets behind 3-car garages. My parents lived on falsely modest cul-de-sac called Juniper Rise. As I pulled my sedan into the driveway, I noticed the first sign that the Parker Family Initiative wasn't just a website. It was a renovation project. The front door had been painted a high-gloss black, complete with a heavy brass knocker that looked like a lion's head. It was new. So were the oversized ceramic urns flanking the entrance, filled with perfectly symmetrical topiaries. It looked less like a home and more like the lobby of a boutique investment firm. I turned off the ignition and sat for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My phone was in my bag, heavy with the draft email I hadn't sent yet. I had chosen to come here in person because I needed to look them in the eye. I needed to know if they were simply delusional or if they were calculating. A text message allows for interpretation. A face-to-face conversation leaves no room to hide. I walked up the path and rang the bell. I didn't use my key. That felt like a boundary I needed to set immediately. I was a guest here, not a subordinate. Marjorie opened the door. She was wearing a silk blouse and tailored trousers. Her hair sprayed into a helmet of blonde perfection. It was Sunday afternoon, yet she looked ready for a board meeting. "Lillian," she said, her smile tight and not reaching her eyes. "We weren't expecting you. Did you come to apologize?" The question was so breathtakingly off base that I almost laughed. "I came to talk. Mom," I said, stepping past her into the foyer. I stopped. The foyer had been transformed. The old oak console table where we used to dump mail was gone. In its place was a glass and chrome display case. On the wall above it, arranged in a gallery style, were black and white photos in matching silver frames. I walked closer. They were photos of my parents shaking hands with people. There was Grant with the mayor, Marjorie with the head of the local hospital board, and right in the center, a photo of me accepting a regional PR award 3 years ago, except they had cropped the photo so it looked like I was looking adoringly at them, even though they hadn't been at the ceremony. "It looks professional, doesn't it?" Marjorie said, closing the door behind me. "We are trying to elevate the tone of the house. The Vanguard Committee might do a home visit next month." "A home visit?" I turned to look at her. "Like you are adopting a child?" "Like we are joining a legacy circle," she corrected, her voice sharp. "They need to ensure our lifestyle aligns with the circle's values. Come into the living room. Your father is reviewing the guest list for the salon dinner." I followed her into the living room. Grant was sitting in his leather armchair, a stack of heavy, cream-colored envelopes on the ottoman in front of him. He looked up, peering over his reading glasses. He looked the part, distinguished, gray-haired, authoritative. If you didn't know he had just leveraged his house to buy that sweater, you would think he was the patriarch of a dynasty. "Lillian," he said, nodding as if granting me an audience. "We were just discussing the invites for next week. Since you are here, you can help us curate the list. We need to make sure we have a mix of old money and new energy." "I am not here to help with the list," I said, remaining standing. "I am here because you are lying to people. You are lying to donors. You are lying to Vanguard. And you are lying to me." Grant took off his glasses and folded them slowly. "Lying is a strong word. Lillian, it is aggressive." "It is accurate," I said. "I spoke to Celeste Wynn. She thinks I am a co-founder of something called the Parker Family Initiative. She thinks I am the strategic lead. I never agreed to that. I never even heard of it until yesterday." Marjorie sighed, a long, dramatic exhalation that suggested I was exhausting her patience. She walked over to the bar cart and began rearranging the crystal decanters. "The gala was for the family. Lillian," she said, her back to me. "It was our moment. Why do you always have to ruin special nights with your negativity? We finally get a foothold. We finally get some respect in this town. And you come in here waving your finger like a schoolmarm. It is selfish." "Selfish?" I repeated. "Mom, you told me not to come. You texted me, 'Don't come,' because I wasn't a lead enough. And while I was sitting at home, you were telling Roland Keswick that you managed my career. We were protecting you." Marjorie spun around, her face flushing pink. "You are awkward at those things. You get defensive. We smoothed the way. We made you look important. Do you know how many people were impressed by your bio? We did that for you. You did it for you, I said, my voice steady. You used my bio to sell memberships. That is not protection. That is exploitation. I turned to Grant. He was watching me with a look I knew well, a mix of disappointment and calculation. He was assessing if I was a threat he could charm or an obstacle he had to bulldoze. Dad, I said, tell me exactly what you told them. The truth? No spin? Grant placed his hands on his knees. I told them we were a team, he said calmly. I told them that the Parker family operates as a unit, that you spearhead the technical side, the execution, the metrics, the things you are good at, and we handle the vision, the relationships. I don't have a relationship with Vanguard, I said, and I don't work with you. But you could, Grant said, leaning forward. Lillian, look at the big picture. We open the doors. We get you in the room with men like Keswick. You do the work. We all win. It is a perfect synergy. We assumed once you saw the caliber of people we were dealing with, you would fall in line. Why wouldn't you? It is the opportunity of a lifetime. Fall in line, I echoed. The phrase hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Yes, Grant said. Stop fighting us. We set the table. All you have to do is sit down and eat. I looked at the stack of envelopes on the ottoman. They were embossed with a gold crest, a crest we didn't have a month ago. I am not sitting down, I said. I have my own table. I have my own business, and I'm not going to let you cannibalize it to feed your ego. I took a breath, centering myself. I needed to be clear. I needed to be a lawyer delivering a verdict, not a daughter seeking approval. Here is what is going to happen, I said. You are going to contact Celeste Wynn tomorrow morning. You are going to tell her there was a miscommunication. You are going to tell her I am not a co-founder. I am not a member, and I am not involved in the initiative. You will have my name and photo removed from the website and any printed materials. The room went silent. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall seemed to grow louder. Marjorie's face crumpled. It wasn't anger this time. It was a sudden, practiced collapse into victimhood. Her eyes filled with tears, and she brought a hand to her chest. After everything we sacrificed, she whispered. Her voice trembled. We gave up everything for you. The lessons, the tuition, the support. We put you first for 30 years, and now, when we ask for one small thing, one tiny gesture of support, you treat us like criminals. What did you sacrifice? Mom? I asked softly. Be specific. Everything, she wailed, waving her hand vaguely at the ceiling. Our youth, our potential. We could have been traveling, we could have been investing, but we poured it all into you children, and this is how you repay us? By humiliating us? It was the same old song, the vague, unquantifiable debt I was supposed to be paying off for the crime of being born. I am not humiliating you, I said. I am protecting my professional license. If I claim to be part of a foundation that doesn't exist, I can lose my certification. I can be sued. Oh, stop with the legal mumbo-jumbo, Marjorie snapped, the tears vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Nobody sues family. People sue fraud, I said. The front door opened. A burst of cool air swept through the hallway, followed by the sound of shoes scuffling on the hardwood. Hello? Ethan's voice called out. He sounded tentative, like he was testing the air for poison gas. In here, Grant barked. Ethan appeared in the doorway of the living room. He looked pale. He was wearing a hooded sweatshirt and jeans, a stark contrast to the curated aesthetic of the room. He was holding a stack of mail in his hand. He looked at me, then at our parents. He saw the tension in my posture and the red blotches on Marjorie's neck. I brought the mail from the box, Ethan said. The postman just dropped it. Put it on the table, Grant said dismissively. Ethan didn't move. He looked down at the letters in his hand. His thumb was rubbing against the window of a large, heavy envelope. Dad, Ethan said, his voice shaking. This is from Vanguard. Good, Grant said, reaching out a hand. Probably the membership cards. Give it here. Ethan didn't give it to him. He looked at me. Lil, did you know they charge a monthly maintenance fee? Ethan? Grant's voice was a whip crack. Give me the mail. No, Ethan said. He took a step back. It was the most rebellious thing I had ever seen him do. I saw the letter from the bank, too. Dad, it is marked, Urgent Action Required. And this one, he held up a thick envelope. This one says, Pledge Commitment Schedule. What does it say? Ethan? I asked, stepping toward him. It says the first installment of $25,000 is due on the 15th. Ethan read, his eyes widening. And it mentions a total commitment of $100,000 for the founding partner status. I felt the blood drain from my face. $100,000? I turned to Grant. You pledged $100,000? You don't have $100,000. Grant stood up. The charm was gone. He looked cornered, and a cornered Grant Parker was a dangerous thing. It is an investment, he said, his voice low. You have to spend money to make money. Lillian, once we are established, the deals will flow. We will make that back in 6 months. How? I demanded. How exactly are you planning to make $100,000 in 6 months? Grant didn't answer. He looked at Marjorie. Marjorie looked at the floor. It was Ethan who answered. He looked up from a third letter he had opened, a glossy brochure for the Parker Family Initiative that had been mailed to the house as a proof. By selling sponsorships, Ethan whispered. He looked sick. Lil, look at this. He handed me the brochure. I opened it. It was a menu of donation tiers for the initiative. Platinum Partner, $25,000. Includes private consultation with strategic lead Lillian Parker regarding corporate responsibility alignment. Gold Partner, $10,000. Includes access to the Parker Network Roundtable. I stared at the words. Private consultation with strategic lead. Lillian Parker. They weren't just using my name for clout. They were selling my time. They were selling my consulting services, which I usually billed at $300 an hour. As a perk for their donors, they were planning to take the donation money to pay their Vanguard debt, and I would be left doing the work for free, legally bound by promises I hadn't made. You are pimping me out, I said. The words tasted like ash. You are literally selling me. It is a consultation, Marjorie cried. It is a coffee. You have coffee with people all the time. Why is it so hard for you to help your father? Because you are keeping the money, I shouted. My control finally snapped. You are taking $25,000 from a company, promising them my expertise, and you are using that money to pay for your country club fees. That is embezzlement. That is a Ponzi scheme. It is a foundation, Grant roared. He slammed his hand on the mantelpiece, making the photos rattle. It is all going into the same pot. It is family money. What is yours is ours. Lillian, we made you. We paid for that degree. We paid for that apartment. I paid for my apartment, I yelled back. I paid for every brick. You haven't given me a dime since I was 22. We gave you the platform, Grant shouted. We gave you the name, Parker. That name means something because of us. It means nothing, I said. It means debt. It means lies. And I am done carrying it. I threw the brochure onto the ottoman. It slid across the leather and landed at Grant's feet. I am not doing the consultations, I said. My voice was shaking, but it was quiet now. I am not meeting with your donors. I am not introducing you to my clients. If anyone calls me expecting a meeting, I will tell them the truth. I will tell them you sold something you didn't own. Grant looked at me. His face had settled into a hard, stony mask. The red flush of anger was gone, replaced by something colder, contempt. He took a step toward me. You think you are so special, he said softly. You think you are better than us because you have a fancy office and a view of the harbor, but you forget who taught you how to survive. I survived in spite of you, I said. If you walk out of here and torch this, Grant said, pointing a finger at my chest. If you embarrass us in front of these people, don't be surprised if they learn what you are really like. What is that supposed to mean? I asked. It means everyone has secrets. Lillian, he said. Everyone has a version of the story that makes them look bad. You have worked very hard to curate your reputation. It would be a shame if people started hearing stories about how unstable you really are, how you abandoned your family, how you had episodes. I stared at him. Are you threatening to smear me? I am telling you that truth is subjective, Grant said. And we have a lot of friends in that circle now. People who listen to us, people who write checks. If it comes down to your word against the heartbroken parents who just wanted to help their troubled daughter, who do you think they will believe? It was a masterclass in manipulation. He was threatening to gaslight the entire city. He was threatening to paint me as the crazy, ungrateful daughter to cover his own fraud. I looked at Ethan. He was standing by the door, tears streaming down his face. He looked terrified. Ethan, I said, you can come with me. You can stay at my place. Ethan looked at Grant. Grant didn't move his eyes off me, but the threat radiated off him. I can't, Ethan whispered. I have to help Mom with dinner. My heart broke a little more. He was still a hostage. Okay, I said. I am leaving. I turned and walked out of the living room. I walked past the gallery of fake photos. I walked past the black door with the lion knocker. I got into my car and locked the doors. My hands were trembling so hard, I couldn't get the key in the ignition for a full 10 seconds. I drove. I didn't know where I was going at first. Just away. Away from the manicured lawns and the suffocating lies. I ended up back at my apartment. It was dark now. The city lights were on. I walked inside and locked the door. I leaned against it, breathing hard. I felt violated. They had turned my existence into a commodity. I went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. I needed to calm down. I needed to think like a strategist. Grant's threat was real. If I went public, they would counterattack. They would play the victim card. They would use the mental health angle, a favorite weapon of abusive parents everywhere. She is just so emotional. She has always been difficult. My phone buzzed. An email notification. I walked over to the laptop I had left on the coffee table. I woke up the screen. The email was from legal@alderbrookconsulting.com. My stomach dropped. Alderbrook was the corporate sponsor I had signed 2 months ago, the big contract, the one with the strict NDA. Subject: Urgent. Inquiry regarding Parker Family Initiative. Affiliation. Dear Ms. Parker, it has come to our attention that the Alderbrook Consulting Group logo and brand name are currently being displayed on the Partners page of the Vanguard Civic Circle website, specifically under a subsection titled The Parker Family Initiative. Our records indicate that our contract is exclusively with you, Lillian Parker, as an independent consultant. We have no record of an agreement with a Parker Family Initiative or the Vanguard Civic Circle. Furthermore, the language on the site implies a partnership that extends to family-led philanthropic direction, which creates significant legal ambiguity regarding the custody of our proprietary data. Please clarify the relationship between your consultancy and this initiative immediately. If you have subcontracted our work to your family's foundation without our consent, this constitutes a material breach of contract. We require a response by 9 a.m. Monday. Sincerely, J. Sterling General Counsel, Alderbrook Consulting Group. I stared at the words, material breach of contract. Grant had done it. He hadn't just embarrassed me. He had triggered a legal avalanche. If I lost the Alderbrook contract, I would lose 30% of my annual revenue. But worse, if they sued me for breach of confidentiality because my parents were running around town claiming to manage my data, I could be disbarred from my professional association. My career was on the line. Right now, the threat Grant made about ruining my reputation was already happening. But he wasn't doing it with whispers. He was doing it with incompetence. I felt a sudden, icy calm wash over me. The time for negotiation was over. The time for family meetings was over. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I was a defendant trying to avoid a verdict. I sat down at the keyboard. First, I opened the draft to Celeste Wynne. I attached the screenshots of the text messages from my mother telling me not to come. I attached the PDF of the Alderbrook contract, redacted. I attached the timeline of unauthorized usage I had built the night before. I edited the text. I made it colder, sharper. Dear Ms. Wynne. Attached. Please find documentation confirming that I have no affiliation with the Parker Family Initiative. The use of my name, likeness, and professional credentials is unauthorized. The partnership with Alderbrook Consulting is non-existent. I am formally requesting the immediate removal of my name and image from all Vanguard materials. Failure to do so will result in legal action for misappropriation of likeness and tortious interference with business relations. I am copying my personal counsel on this email. I didn't have personal counsel yet, but I would by morning. I hit send. Then I opened a reply to Alderbrook. Dear Mr. Sterling, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Please be assured that I have absolutely no affiliation with the Parker Family Initiative. The use of your logo and my name by this third party is unauthorized and constitutes an infringement against both of us. I have already issued a cease and desist demand to the Vanguard Civic Circle. I am available to meet with you tomorrow morning to provide full documentation proving that no proprietary data has been shared. This is a case of identity theft, not subcontracting. I will protect our contract. Sincerely, Lillian Parker. I hit send. I sat back in the dark room. The silence was absolute. My parents had bet everything on the idea that I would be too afraid to embarrass them. They thought the good daughter would swallow the poison to keep the family looking pretty. They were wrong. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. It was Simone Hartwell, an old law school friend who specialized in defamation and reputation management. It rang 3 times. Lillian? Simone answered, sounding surprised. It is Sunday night. Is everything okay? No, I said. I need to hire you. I am about to go to war with my parents, and I need to make sure I don't get destroyed in the process. Okay, Simone said, her voice shifting instantly to professional mode. Tell me what happened. They stole my identity, I said, and now I have to steal it back. I looked out at the city. The lights were blurry through the glass. Grant had warned me not to show people what I was really like. He was about to find out exactly what I was like. I was the person who kept the receipts. The response from Vanguard arrived at 8:15 on Monday morning. It was a masterpiece of corporate evasion. Signed by Celeste Wynne. Dear Lillian, thank you for your candid note. We regret that the administrative language on our provisional partner page caused any confusion regarding your specific title. The Vanguard Civic Circle prides itself on honoring the holistic contributions of our member families, and sometimes in our enthusiasm to celebrate legacy. The nuances of individual roles can be generalized. We would value the opportunity to resolve these misunderstandings discreetly. Please join me for a private coffee at the Vanguard Clubhouse this afternoon at 2 o'clock. We can review the materials together and ensure everyone feels heard. Warmly. Celeste. I read it twice. There was no admission of wrongdoing, no promise to remove the content, just a vague reference to enthusiasm and generalization, followed by an invitation to a location that was designed to intimidate. It is a summon, Tessa said when I showed her the email. She was sitting on the edge of my desk in my home office, her arms crossed. She wants to get you into her territory so she can charm you into submission, or bully you, probably both. I am going, I said. But I'm not going alone, and I am not going to be charmed. I called Jay. Sterling at Alderbrook first. I explained the situation, that this was an unauthorized use of my name by a third party, and that I was taking immediate steps to rectify it. He was cold, but he agreed to hold off on filing a breach of contract suit until we met in person on Tuesday. That bought me 24 hours. At 1:30. Tessa drove us to the Vanguard Clubhouse. It was located in the historic district of Harbor Crest, a sprawling Georgian mansion set behind high iron gates. The gravel crunching under Tessa's tires sounded loud in the oppressive silence of the grounds. Remember, Tessa said as we parked between a Bentley and a vintage Jaguar, you are not the daughter here. You are the CEO of Lillian Parker Communications. You outrank them in reality, even if they outrank you in fantasy. We walked up the limestone steps. The heavy oak doors were opened by a steward before we even reached the handle. Inside, the air smelled of beeswax, old paper, and money. It was a sensory assault of quiet luxury. Persian rugs that absorbed every footstep, oil paintings of men in waistcoats, and the kind of silence that made you feel like speaking above a whisper was a moral failing. Celeste Wynne was waiting for us in the library. She rose from a leather wingback chair, smiling as if we were old friends meeting for brunch. She was wearing a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my first car. "Lillian," she said, extending a hand. "And you brought a friend. How lovely." "This is Tessa Moreno," I said, skipping the pleasantries. "She is my witness." Celeste's smile didn't falter, but her eyes hardened by a fraction. "Well, please, sit down. Can I get you tea? Sparkling water?" "No," I said. I sat on the edge of the sofa opposite her. Tessa took the chair next to me, notebook open. "I want to talk about the website. Celeste, I checked it 10 minutes ago. My photo is still there. My title is still there." Celeste sighed, a delicate sound that suggested I was being terribly tedious. She folded her hands in her lap. "Lillian," she began, her voice dropping to a confidential murmur, "I think you are missing the spirit of the circle. We are not just a fundraising group. We are a collection of families who understand that true influence is a collective effort. When your parents joined, at great expense, I might add, they presented a narrative of a united front. They spoke of your work as the family's work. My work is my own," I said. "It is my intellectual property. It is my reputation. My parents do not own it, and by extension, neither do you." "Technically," Celeste said, tilting her head, "but socially? In this room. Lillian, families rise and fall together. If we were to issue a public retraction, if we were to scrub your name and announce that the Parkers were, shall we say, exaggerating their assets, it would be devastating for them. It would humiliate them in front of the entire membership." "They humiliated themselves when they lied," I said. "Perhaps," Celeste said. "But consider the optics. If you force this, you are effectively declaring war on your own inheritance. You are telling the most powerful people in Harbor Crest that the Parker family is broken, that your parents are frauds. Is that really the story you want to tell? It could impact your parents' standing permanently. They would be pariahs." She was holding my parents hostage. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was betting that my guilt, the primal, ingrained guilt of a dutiful daughter, would outweigh my professional integrity. "I am not responsible for their standing," I said. "I am responsible for my integrity, and right now, your website is putting me in legal jeopardy with my actual clients. I need a written correction. Celeste, and I need my name removed. Today." Celeste looked at me for a long moment. She was assessing my resolve. She saw the tension in my jaw, but she also saw the refusal to blink. "Very well," she said, her tone cooling. "We can remove the specific bio. We can adjust the language to be more aspirational." "Not aspirational," I said. "Absent. I want my name gone." "We can take the page down for maintenance," Celeste conceded. "But, Lillian, we have already printed the programs for the salon dinner next week. Your name is listed as a special guest. It would be very awkward to reprint. Perhaps you could just make an appearance, smile, shake a few hands, and then leave? It would reassure the donors that everything is stable." "I am not coming to the dinner," I said. "And if you don't reprint the programs, I will stand outside the door and hand out my own retraction letters." Celeste's eyes narrowed. The mask of politeness slipped completely. "You are very intense, aren't you? Your mother mentioned you could be difficult." "I am professional," I said, standing up. "There is a difference. I expect the website to be clear by 5 o'clock. I turned and walked out. Tessa right on my heels. My heart was hammering against my ribs. It felt like I had just walked away from a car crash. We exited the heavy oak doors and stepped back into the sunlight. I took a deep breath, trying to clear the scent of beeswax and coercion from my lungs. "Ms. Parker?" I turned. A man was walking toward us from the parking lot. He was older, with silver hair and a posture that spoke of decades of authority. It was Dr. Roland Keswick. My stomach dropped. This was the man my parents had lied to directly, the man whose money they had taken. "Dr. Keswick," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hello?" "I'm glad I caught you," he said. He stopped a few feet away, respecting my space. He looked tired. "I saw you walking in. I wanted to apologize." "Apologize?" I asked. "For what?" "For the assumption," he said. "I spoke to your father at the gala. He gave me the impression that you were the architect of the Parker Initiative. I have been following your career for some time. Lillian, your work with the Literacy Council last year was impressive. When Grant told me you were directing this new project, I authorized a grant immediately. I didn't do due diligence the way I should have." "Dr. Keswick," I said, "I want you to know—" "You don't have to explain," he interrupted gently. "I made a few calls this morning after I saw the website traffic. I called Sarah at Harborline. She told me you had no idea about the Vanguard partnership." He knew. He had figured it out before I even said a word. "I am sorry," I said. The shame burned my face. "I am handling it. I have asked them to return the funds." "It is not the money," Keswick said. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Lillian, be careful. I have been a member of this circle for 10 years. It is a shark tank. These people, they value appearance over truth. If you expose your parents, the circle will close ranks. They are vindictive about embarrassment. They will not blame your parents for lying. They will blame you for pointing it out." "I can't let them use my name," I said. "I know," Keswick said, "and I respect that. That is why I invested in you. Just watch your back. Your parents are desperate people, and desperate people are dangerous." He nodded to Tessa, then turned and walked toward the clubhouse. "Desperate people are dangerous," Tessa repeated softly as we got into her car. "He is right, Lil. Grant looked like he wanted to hit you yesterday." "He won't hit me," I said. "He is too afraid of bruising his hand." But as the day wore on, I realized Grant didn't need to use his hands. He had other weapons. By Monday evening, the atmosphere had shifted. I received a text from a former colleague, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey Lillian, heard you are going through a rough patch. Just wanted to send some love. Take care of yourself." I stared at the screen, going through a rough patch. Then another, from a neighbor in my apartment building who knew my mother. "So sorry to hear about the stress. Let me know if you need someone to walk the dog while you recover." I didn't have a dog. I called Ethan. "What are they saying?" I asked the moment he picked up. "I told you not to look," Ethan said. He sounded exhausted. "Ethan, tell me." "Mom spent all day on the phone," he said. "She is calling everyone, the aunts, the cousins, her bridge club, the old neighbors. She is telling them that the pressure of your job has finally gotten to you. She says you are having a mental health crisis. She is telling people I am crazy? She is saying you are confused," Ethan said. "She is telling people that you lashed out at them because you are overworked and unstable. She says they are trying to get you help, but you are refusing to see the family doctor. She is painting herself as the martyr. Lil, the grieving mother trying to save her daughter from herself." I felt a cold rage settle in my chest. It was the nuclear option. If I spoke out now, if I told the truth about the fraud, everyone would just shake their heads and say, "Oh, poor Lillian. She is so paranoid. Marjorie told us she might say things like that." They were inoculating the community against the truth. "And Dad?" I asked. "Dad is telling the business guys that you are taking a sabbatical to deal with personal issues. Ethan said. "He is laying the groundwork to explain why you won't be at the meetings. He is not admitting you refused. He is saying you are incapable." "Okay," I said. "Thank you, Ethan." "Lil, don't go over there," Ethan begged. "Please, it will just make it worse." "I am not coming over," I said. "I have work to do." I hung up. I couldn't fight the gossip. Gossip was smoke. You couldn't punch it. I had to fight the facts. I didn't sleep that night. I prepared for the Alderbrook meeting. I organized my files. I printed the emails. I was going to prove that I was not unstable. I was going to prove I was the only person in the room who knew what was happening. Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock, the offices of Alderbrook Consulting. J. Sterling was a sharp-featured man with glasses that looked like they cost more than my mortgage payment. He sat across from me in a glass-walled conference room, a file folder open in front of him. "Ms. Parker," he said, "thank you for coming in. We received your email. We appreciate your assertion that you are not affiliated with the initiative." "I am not," I said, "and I have issued a cease and desist to Vanguard to remove my name." "That is good," Sterling said. "However, we have a more pressing concern than the website." He slid a document across the polished table. "This was sent to our CSR department 3 weeks ago," he said. "It is a funding proposal from the Vanguard Civic Circle, specifically regarding the Parker Family Initiative. It requests a $50,000 sponsorship." I looked at the document. It was on Vanguard letterhead, but as I read the text, the room seemed to tilt. The initiative utilizes a proprietary stakeholder synergy loop to maximize community impact. Stakeholder synergy loop, that was my phrase. I had coined it. I had used it in a specific strategy deck for a tech client 2 years ago. It wasn't a standard industry term. It was mine. I turned the page. Phase 1, assessment. Phase 2, alignment. Phase 3, activation. The font was different. The headers were different. But the content, the structure, the methodology, the specific pacing of the rollout, it was my work. It was a strategy deck I had built, stripped of my branding and pasted onto their letterhead. "This is my work," I whispered. "We thought so," Sterling said. "The problem, Ms. Parker, is that this proposal contains elements that are strikingly similar to the confidential strategy you presented to us last month. The outcome tracking matrices on page 4? Those are identical to the ones in our contract." He tapped the paper. "So, the question is, how did the Vanguard Civic Circle get access to a strategy that you developed exclusively for Alderbrook? Did you share it with them?" "No," I said. "Absolutely not." "Then you have a data leak," Sterling said. "And until you can prove how this happened, we have to assume your security protocols are compromised. We are suspending the contract, Lillian, pending an investigation." "Suspending?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "Mr. Sterling, please, I didn't send this." "Someone did," he said. "And since it came from your family's initiative, the call is coming from inside the house. Find the leak, Lillian, or we terminate." I walked out of the Alderbrook building into the blinding noon sun. I felt sick. How did they get it? I went back to my apartment. I sat on the floor, surrounded by my laptops and backup drives. I started tearing through my digital history. I checked my sent folder again. I had found the draft proposal I sent Marjorie 6 months ago, the one I had already identified, but that was for a different client. That didn't explain the Alderbrook matrices. I checked my cloud sharing logs. Nothing. I checked my external hard drive history. Nothing. Then I froze. I remembered a weekend, 3 months ago. I had gone to Meadow Ridge for my father's birthday. I had brought my laptop because I was on a deadline for the Alderbrook pitch. I remembered leaving the laptop on the kitchen island while we went out to dinner because Marjorie insisted we take one car. "Leave it. Lillian, you can work when we get back. Just be present for once." I had left it. It was password protected. But my password was Ethan 1999. My brother's name and birth year. It was weak. It was sentimental, and my mother knew it. She had watched me type it in a dozen times over the years when I was showing her photos or helping her order groceries online. I felt a wave of nausea. They hadn't just used the draft I sent them. They had accessed my computer. They had gone into my files, found the most recent, high-value decks, and copied them to a flash drive. It was corporate espionage. Committed by my mother while I was eating birthday cake at a steakhouse, I grabbed my phone. I didn't call Grant. I called Marjorie. She answered on the first ring. "Lillian, are you feeling better?" Her voice was so solicitous, so fake tender, it made my skin crawl. "I know what you did," I said. "I don't know what you mean," she said. "Honey, you sound manic. Have you been sleeping?" "Stop it," I said. "Stop the act. I just left a meeting with Alderbrook. They showed me the proposal you sent them, the one with the stakeholder synergy loop." There was a silence. A tiny hesitation beat. "I don't know that term," Marjorie said. "Your father wrote the proposal." "You know that term," I said, "because it was in the deck I was working on during Dad's birthday. The one on my laptop, the laptop I left in your kitchen." "Lillian, you are being paranoid," Marjorie said, her voice sharpening. "We would never touch your computer. You probably sent it to us and forgot. You have been so forgetful lately. It is the stress." "I didn't send it," I said, "and I can prove it. The metadata on the file will show when it was created and where. If I hand my laptop over to a forensic IT team, they will see that it was accessed while I was at dinner." "You wouldn't do that," she said. The tenderness was gone. "I am losing my contract." "Mom," I said, "I am losing my livelihood because you stole my files. Why? Why did you do it?" "We needed a template," she snapped. The confession exploded out of her. "We didn't know how to write the language. You wouldn't help us. You were so busy, so high and mighty. We just needed to see how it was done. We were going to change it." "You didn't change it," I shouted. "You copied the matrices. You stole proprietary data." "It is just words. Lillian," she screamed back. "It is just business speak. Nobody owns words. We are trying to build a future here, and you are obsessing over a few charts? You are selfish. You are destroying this family over paperwork." "I am not destroying the family," I said, my voice shaking. "You did that when you logged into my computer." "If you tell anyone," Marjorie said, her voice dropping to a hiss, "if you tell anyone I touched your computer, I will tell them you gave it to me. I will tell them you were helping us all along and then you panicked and tried to blame us. Who will they believe? Lillian, the respected civic leaders, or the daughter who is having a breakdown?" "You are a monster," I whispered. "I am a mother doing what is necessary," she said. "Get some rest. Lillian, you sound unhinged." She hung up. I sat there, the phone slipping from my hand. She had admitted it, and she had twisted it. She was right. Without the forensic proof. It was he said, she said, and she had already poisoned the well with the breakdown narrative. If I went to the police now, I would look like a paranoid woman accusing her elderly mother of hacking. My phone buzzed again. It wasn't a text. It was a signal message. From an unknown number. I picked it up. There was a photo attached. It was a picture taken inside the Vanguard clubhouse. It showed a polished mahogany conference table. On the table, sitting next to a vase of fresh hydrangeas, was a manila folder. The label on the folder read, L. Parker, Talking Points, Draft. Underneath the photo was a message. They are planning to introduce you whether you show up or not. They have a script. They hired an actress to record a video message from Geneva just in case. They are going all in on Thursday. I stared at the message. An actress? They were going to fake a video. They were going to play a recording of someone pretending to be me, apologizing for my absence and endorsing the initiative. I looked at the timestamp. The message was sent 2 minutes ago. I typed back, "Who is this?" The typing bubbles appeared, then stopped, then appeared again. Someone who knows a bad investment when they see one. Don't let them play the video. Lillian, if that video plays, you own the fraud forever. I put the phone down. Thursday, the salon dinner. They weren't just stealing my work anymore, they were stealing my voice. I felt the fear evaporate. It was replaced by a cold, hard certainty. I had been trying to solve this with emails and private meetings. I had been trying to be discreet, but discretion was what they counted on. Discretion was the shadow where they hid. If they wanted Lillian Parker to make an appearance, then Lillian Parker was going to make an appearance. I stood up and walked to my closet. I pushed aside the soft sweaters and the casual wear. I reached for the back, for the garment bag that held my crisis suit. It was sharp, black, and armored. I wasn't going to send a lawyer. I wasn't going to send a letter. I was going to the dinner, and I wasn't going to follow the script. Wednesday morning arrived with a silence that felt heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. I sat at my dining table, which was no longer a place for meals but a command center for salvaging my own existence. The sun was trying to break through the gray cloud cover over Harbor Crest, but inside my apartment, everything felt cold. I had spent the last decade building a reputation as a fixer. When a CEO tweeted something offensive, or a nonprofit had a funding gap, they called me. I was the person who walked into the burning building with a fire extinguisher and a calm demeanor. But now, the fire was in my own living room, and the arsonists were the people who had taught me how to walk. I had to protect my clients. That was the first rule of crisis management. Contain the blast radius. I opened my laptop and pulled up the draft I had written to Marcus Thorne at Harborline Youth Arts. It was painful to read. It required me to strip away the professional distance I prized and admit to a humiliating, messy personal reality. Dear Marcus, I am writing to provide full transparency regarding the unauthorized communications you have received from the Vanguard Civic Circle. The Parker Family Initiative is not a legal entity affiliated with my consultancy, and the representations made by my parents, Grant and Marjorie Parker, regarding my involvement are false. I am currently taking legal steps to rectify this identity theft. I have attached a sworn affidavit stating that I have not shared any confidential donor data with third parties. I value our work with the youth of Harbor Crest above all else, and I refuse to let this personal matter compromise the integrity of the program. Sincerely, Lillian Parker. I stared at the cursor. Hitting send felt like cutting off a limb to save the body. It was an admission that my family was broken, that my parents were untrustworthy, in the tight-knit world of Harbor Crest philanthropy. This email would circulate, people would talk, but if I didn't send it, I was a co-conspirator. I pressed send. Next was Alderbrook. This was harder. Sterling had practically accused me of corporate espionage. I had to prove that I was the victim, not the perpetrator. I attached the forensic logs from my laptop, which I had paid a rush fee to obtain overnight. They showed the access timestamps matching the dinner hour on my father's birthday. I attached a copy of the cease and desist letter I was about to serve to Vanguard. Mr. Sterling, please find attached the forensic evidence confirming unauthorized physical access to my device during a family gathering. This was a theft of proprietary data, not a breach of contract on my part. I am aggressively pursuing the removal of all derived materials. I ask that you suspend judgment until the legal process concludes. I sent it. I closed the laptop and put my head in my hands. The shame was a physical nausea. I was 32 years old, and I was emailing Fortune 500 lawyers to say, my mother hacked my computer because she wanted to look impressive at a party. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus Thorne. I braced myself for a termination of services. I picked up. Hello, Marcus. Lillian. His voice was deep, gravelly, and surprisingly gentle. I just read your email. I understand if the board needs to distance itself, I said, my voice tight. I will facilitate a smooth handover of the files. We aren't going anywhere, Marcus said. I blinked, the sudden relief making me dizzy. Excuse me? I have been in this town a long time. Marcus said, I know the difference between a bad seed and a bad situation. You have done incredible work for us. The integrity you showed in sending that email, that confirms everything I need to know about your character. We will ignore the noise from Vanguard. You just handle your business. Lillian, We are with you. Thank you, I whispered, my throat constricting. Marcus, thank you. Just one piece of advice, he added. Don't let them drag you into the mud. The truth is a quiet thing. Lies are loud. Let them be loud. He hung up. I sat there, letting the tears prick my eyes for exactly 5 seconds before wiping them away. I had one ally. That was enough, but the relief was short-lived. The buzzer to my apartment rang. It was Ethan. When I let him in, he looked like a ghost. His skin was gray, and there were dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. He wasn't carrying a bag, just his phone and a crumpled piece of paper in his jacket pocket. They are getting worse, he said without preamble, walking into the kitchen and leaning against the counter as if his legs couldn't hold him. Did they see the email? I asked, pouring him a glass of water. Not yet, Ethan said. They are too busy rehearsing. Lil, it is manic over there. Dad is drinking scotch at 10 in the morning, pacing around the living room, talking about how he is going to be the king of Harbor Crest. And Mom, he trailed off. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out the crumpled paper. I found this on the printer tray, Ethan said. It is a draft of the speech Dad plans to give tomorrow night. Tomorrow night? I asked. I thought the salon dinner was next week. They moved it up, Ethan said. Vanguard added an emergency reception. An intimate continuation of the gala. They want to lock in the pledges before the buzz dies down. It is tomorrow night at the Branton house again. Smaller room, bigger donors. He pushed the paper across the island. Read the second paragraph. I smoothed out the wrinkled sheet. It was typed in large, 14-point font, triple-spaced for easy reading. We often get asked how we raised such a successful daughter. The truth is, Lillian is our greatest project. We designed her career with the same precision we apply to this initiative. We guided her values. We directed her education, and we curated the experiences that made her the woman she is today. When you invest in the Parker Family Initiative, you aren't just buying a program. You are buying the proprietary formula that built Lillian Parker. I read it twice. The words swam before my eyes. Our greatest project. We designed her. It wasn't just a lie. It was a dehumanization. It reduced my entire life. My late nights studying, my student loans, my panic attacks, my victories, my failures, into a product they had manufactured. I wasn't a person to them. I was a prototype. I was a spec sheet. They think they made me, I whispered. They truly believe it, Ethan said miserably. I heard Mom on the phone with Aunt Carol. She said, Lillian is just the vessel. We poured the water in. Lil, it is sick. It is like they don't even see you as human. You are just proof of concept. I felt a strange, jagged crack open up inside my chest. It wasn't anger anymore. It was grief. I had spent my whole life waiting for them to see me. I thought if I was successful enough, if I was professional enough, they would finally look at me and say, Good job, Lillian. We see you. But they didn't see me. They only saw a reflection of themselves. They saw a trophy they could polish and put on a shelf to show the neighbors. They are going to say this to a room full of people, I said. They are going to tell Dr. Keswick and the mayor that they own me. And that is not even the worst part, Ethan said. Mom has been practicing the explanation for why you aren't there. She has a whole bit about how you are too fragile for the spotlight. She is going to cry. Lil, she is going to cry and say you are battling personal demons, and she is stepping up to be your voice because you can't speak for yourself. She is stealing my voice, I said. She is burying you, Ethan corrected. If she gives that speech, you will never get a high-level client again. Everyone will think you are a mental basket case controlled by your parents. I looked at the window. The city looked distant, like a painting I couldn't touch. I was trapped in a paradox. If I stayed silent, they destroyed my reputation by painting me as incompetent. If I spoke up, I destroyed my reputation by being the ungrateful daughter who attacked her elderly parents. Society loves a family unit. It forgives parents almost anything. It views children who break away as defective. as cold, but they are your parents, people say. They did the best they could. My parents were doing their best to ruin me. I need to call Simone, I said. Ethan looked terrified. The shark lawyer? She is not a shark, I said. She is a shield, and I need a shield. I sent Ethan to the guest room to try and sleep. Then I dialed Simone Hartwell. I have the draft, Simone said the moment she answered. She had been reviewing the documents I sent over. Lillian, this is actionable. We have misappropriation of likeness, tortious interference with business contracts, and potential copyright infringement regarding the Alderbrook materials. What are my options? I asked. Option A. We send a cease and desist immediately, Simone said. We demand they scrub your name from the program, the website, and the speech. We copy Vanguard Legal. That usually scares the institution enough to pull the plug. And if they don't? Option B. We file an emergency injunction, she said. We go to a judge tomorrow morning and get a court order preventing them from using your name. That becomes public record. It will be in the papers. That blows everything up, I said. My parents will be humiliated. Lillian, Simone said, her voice dropping into that strict, lawyerly cadence. They are not worried about humiliating you. They are relying on your silence. They are banking on the fact that you are too good to fight back. If you don't send the cease and desist, you are effectively endorsing their fraud. You are letting them sell a product that doesn't exist. She paused. And I have to tell you, Doctor, Keswick called me. He called you? We run in the same circles, Simone said. He knows I represent you. He didn't break privilege, but he gave me a friendly warning. He said, if she waits until after the announcement to correct the record, she looks like she is backpedaling. She looks like she was in on the con until it went south. She has to go on the record before the check clears. That was it. The final push. Keswick was telling me that my silence looked like complicity. Send the letter, I said. Send it to Vanguard, and send a copy to my parents' house. I will have a courier there in 2 hours, Simone said. Lillian, once this leaves my outbox, there is no going back. It is a declaration of war. I didn't start the war, I said. I am just refusing to die in it. We hung up. I spent the afternoon working, or trying to. I paced the apartment. I watched the clock. At 4:30, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Marjorie. One sentence. You are doing this to punish us. No question mark, no denial, no apology. Just the immediate reframing of her actions as my malice. She didn't see the legal threat. She saw a daughter acting out. She saw disobedience. I didn't reply. At 6 o'clock, Tessa came over with Thai food. We sat on the floor of the living room, surrounded by the evidence folders. The reception is tomorrow at 7, Tessa said, poking at a container of pad Thai. Miles found the invitation in his spam folder. Vanguard is desperate to fill the room. They are calling it a select salon. Is Miles going? I asked. He has to, Tessa said. His firm is a founding member, but he told me he is wearing a wire if you want him to. I managed a weak smile. I don't think we need a wire. We need a miracle. What did your mom say? Tessa asked. She thinks I am punishing them, I said. She doesn't understand that I'm just trying to stop them from committing a felony. She thinks the laws of physics and finance don't apply to the Parkers. They are going to play the video, Tessa said quietly. The fake one. The actress. I know, I said. Simone included a demand to destroy any audio-visual recordings impersonating me, but Vanguard hasn't responded. They might claim it is artistic license. If that video plays, Tessa said, and the actress accepts the honor on your behalf, Lillian, you can't come back from that. You will be the face of the scam. I closed my eyes. The image of a stranger, wearing my face or my voice, accepting credit for work I didn't do, promising results I couldn't deliver. It was a nightmare. I can't stop them from playing it, I said. I can't physically tackle the AV guy. No, Tessa said, but you can be there. I looked at her. Ethan told me not to come. He said it would get ugly. It is already ugly, Tessa said. It is just ugly in private. If you go, you make it ugly in public, but at least you control the narrative. If you are standing in the room, they can't pretend you are in Geneva. If I walk into that room, I said, my father might actually attack me, or have a heart attack, or both. He is a bully, Tessa said. Bullies crumble when you turn the lights on. I didn't answer. I just stared at the skyline. The night deepened. Tessa left around 9. Ethan was still asleep in the guest room, exhausted by the emotional labor of living in a war zone. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. At 11 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Ethan, calling from the other room. I can't sleep, he whispered. I just got off the phone with Dad. Why are you talking to him? I asked, sitting up. He called me. He is drunk. Lil, really drunk. He is ranting about how you owe the family. He keeps saying, I paid for her teeth. I paid for her piano lessons. She belongs to us. He is working himself into a frenzy. He is scared, I said. He is dangerous, Ethan said. And Mom? Mom is in the background. I heard her. She was practicing the speech. She was reciting the lines about your fragility over and over again, trying to get the quiver in her voice just right. It was like hearing a ghost story. They are really going through with it, I said. Even with the cease and desist. They tore up the letter, Ethan said. Dad ripped it up and threw it in the fireplace, he said. No daughter of mine sues her father. He thinks he is above the law because he is the patriarch. Lil, promise me you won't come tomorrow. Please, if you show up, he will lose it. He will make a scene that will destroy everyone. If I don't go, I said. They destroy me. Let them play the video, Ethan begged. We can fix it later. We can release a statement. But don't walk into that room. It isn't safe. Go to sleep, Ethan, I said gently. We will talk in the morning. I hung up. I got out of bed. I walked to the window. The Branton house was visible from here, just a cluster of lights on the hill. Tomorrow night, my parents would stand in that ballroom. They would smile. They would lie. They would present a hollow shell and call it a daughter. If I stayed home, I was safe. I was the good girl. I was the victim. But I was done being the victim, and I was done being the good girl. I walked to my closet. I opened the garment bag I had pulled out earlier. The suit was black, sharp lapels, tailored waist. It looked like armor. I went to my desk. I printed the folder. Exhibit A, the emails from Marjorie admitting to the data theft. Exhibit B, the Alderbrook contract. Exhibit C, the cease and desist letter. Exhibit D, the greatest project speech draft. I collated them into 10 identical folders. I wasn't going to hand them out like flyers. I was going to hold them. I was going to let them be seen. I stood in front of the full-length mirror in the hallway. I looked at my reflection. I looked tired. I looked pale, but my eyes were steady. I practiced the sentence. I need to correct something. No, too soft. You are lying. No, too emotional, too angry. It would prove their point that I was unstable. I took a breath. I squared my shoulders. I channeled Marcus Thorne's voice. The truth is a quiet thing. I need to correct something, calmly, for the record. I said it again. I need to correct something, calmly, for the record. It felt right. It felt cold. It felt like a blade. I wasn't going to the Branton house to fight with my parents. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg them to love me. I was going to reclaim my name. I turned off the light. I didn't sleep. But for the first time in 5 days, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. The Branton house looked different on a Thursday night. During the weekend gala, it had been a carnival of noise and flashing lights, a sprawling spectacle designed to dazzle. Tonight, for the select salon, it was quieter, darker, and infinitely more intimidating. The driveway was lined with black SUVs and town cars, their drivers standing like sentries in the mist that rolled off the harbor. I sat in my car for a long moment, my hands gripping the steering wheel at 10 and 2. The engine was off. but I could hear the blood rushing in my ears, a rhythmic whooshing sound that drowned out the distant hum of the city. My pulse was throbbing in my throat, a frantic bird trapping itself against my windpipe. I looked down at the passenger seat. The folder was there. The black plastic cover was cool to the touch. Inside were 10 copies of The Truth, my email timestamps, the forensic logs, the Alderbrook contract, and the draft of the speech my father was currently preparing to read. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. I had chosen a black suit, severe and tailored, with a white silk blouse buttoned to the collar. I wore no jewelry. I had pulled my hair back into a tight, low knot. I did not look like a debutante or a philanthropist's daughter. I looked like what I was, a crisis manager arriving at a disaster site. I opened the car door and stepped out. The air was cold, biting through the thin fabric of my suit. I walked up the limestone steps, my heels clicking sharply on the stone. The doorman checked his list. He frowned. "Parker?" he asked. "I have a Grant and Marjorie Parker inside, but I don't see a Lillian." "I am the guest of honor," I said. My voice was steady, lower than usual. "Check the addendum." He hesitated, then glanced at the monitor. "Ah, yes, the initiative. Go right in, Ms. Parker." I walked through the heavy oak doors. The reception was being held in the Founders Room, a space I had only ever seen in architectural magazines. It was smaller than the ballroom, intimate and suffocatingly expensive. The walls were paneled in mahogany, the sconces were real gold, and the carpet was so thick it felt like walking on moss. There were perhaps 50 people in the room, but they were the 50 people who owned Harbor Crest. I saw the mayor. I saw the CEO of the regional hospital system. I saw Dr. Roland Keswick standing near the fireplace, holding a tumbler of sparkling water. And I saw my parents. They were standing near the podium at the front of the room, bathed in the soft, flattering light of a crystal chandelier. From a distance, they looked like the picture of success. Marjorie was wearing a navy blue gown that shimmered under the lights, her head thrown back in laughter as she spoke to a woman dripping in diamonds. Grant was in a tuxedo, one hand in his pocket, the other gesturing expansively as he held court. They were performing. I knew every line of their bodies. I saw the way Marjorie's hand tightened around her champagne flute until her knuckles turned white. I saw the sheen of sweat on Grant's upper lip and the way his eyes darted around the room, scanning for threats, scanning for validation. They were terrified. They were clinging to this status like a life raft in a storm, knowing that one puncture would send them to the bottom. I took a step forward, moving out of the shadows of the foyer and into the perimeter of the room. Celeste Wynne spotted me first. She was standing near the bar, looking elegant and lethal in a cream-colored pantsuit. Her eyes widened when they landed on me. For a fraction of a second, her composure cracked, revealing pure panic. Then, the professional mask slammed back into place. She moved quickly, intercepting me before I could reach the center of the room. "Lillian," she hissed, her voice a low, urgent whisper masked by a bright, fake smile. She reached out, gripping my elbow with surprising strength. "What are you doing here? You declined the invitation." "I changed my mind," I said. I didn't pull away, but I stopped walking, forcing her to stop with me. "This is not a good idea," Celeste said through her teeth. "Your parents are very on edge. We have a specific program tonight, a video presentation. It would be disruptive for you to be here live." "A video presentation," I repeated. "The one with the actress?" Celeste's grip on my arm tightened. "Come with me to the library. We can catch up in private. I will have a steward bring you a drink. We can discuss the website corrections away from the noise." She was trying to corral me. She wanted to shove me into a side room, lock the door, and let the play continue on the main stage without the inconvenient reality of the protagonist ruining the script. "No, thank you," I said. "I am comfortable standing." "Lillian," Celeste warned, her tone dropping the pretense of politeness. "Don't make a scene. These people are not your audience. They are your parents' peers. If you embarrass them..." You embarrass yourself. I am not here to make a scene. Celeste, I said, pulling my arm free from her grasp. I am here to be a witness. At that moment, the lights in the room dimmed. A spotlight hit the podium. The conversation in the room died down, replaced by a polite, expectant silence. Grant stepped up to the microphone. He adjusted his cufflinks, cleared his throat, and flashed a smile that looked painful. "Good evening, friends," Grant said. His voice boomed through the speakers, rich and confident. "Thank you for joining us tonight for this intimate gathering. It has been a whirlwind week for the Parker family, and we are so humbled by the outpouring of support for our vision." Marjorie stood just behind him, beaming, her hands clasped in front of her like a prayer. "We launched the Parker Family Initiative because we believe in legacy," Grant continued. "We believe that true success isn't just about what you build for yourself, but what you pass down. And speaking of passing things down," he paused for effect. The room leaned in. "Many of you have asked about our daughter, Lillian," Grant said. "She is the inspiration behind this entire endeavor. We poured our lives into guiding her values, directing her career, and curating the woman she has become." I felt the nausea rise in my throat. Curating, as if I were a museum exhibit. "Lillian couldn't be here tonight," Grant said, his voice dropping to a somber, regretful register. "She is traveling for work, managing critical projects in Geneva, but she is the heart of this work. She is the silent engine, and even though she is thousands of miles away, she asked us to speak for her." "Actually," I said, I didn't shout. I didn't have a microphone, but in the hushed acoustics of the founder's room, my voice carried like a bell. "I am right here." I stepped forward into the pool of light spill from the chandelier. The reaction was immediate. A ripple of confusion went through the room. Heads turned. People shifted in their chairs. Grant froze. He looked at me, and for a second, I thought he might faint. His face went gray. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marjorie let out a small, strangled gasp. Her hand flew to her throat. I walked toward the front of the room. I didn't go to the podium. I didn't invade their physical space. I stopped about 10 feet away, creating a triangle between myself, my parents, and the audience. "Lillian," Grant stammered, his confident baritone reduced to a reedy squeak. "We didn't think you could make it back from Switzerland." "I have never been to Switzerland," I said. The silence in the room changed texture. It went from polite to predatory. The wealthy are fascinated by disaster, as long as it isn't theirs. "I am sorry to interrupt," I said, turning slightly to address the room. I kept my hands clasped in front of me. I kept my posture perfect. But I realized there was a misunderstanding regarding my involvement in the Parker Family Initiative, and I felt it was important to correct it in person. "Lillian, darling," Marjorie interrupted, her voice shrill. She stepped forward, reaching out a hand as if to grab me. "You are tired. You look exhausted. Why don't we go into the hall? You are clearly not yourself." She was doing it. She was playing the mental health card right in front of the donors. "I am perfectly well, Mother," I said. I didn't look at her. I looked at Dr. Keswick. "I am here to clarify that I am not a co-founder of this initiative. I did not authorize the use of my name, my image, or my professional biography for this fundraising campaign." A murmur ran through the crowd. I heard a glass clink against a table. "My consultancy is an independent entity," I continued, keeping my voice level, factual, boring. "I do not have a partnership with the Vanguard Civic Circle. I have requested that my name be removed from all materials, and I wanted to ensure that none of you donated under the false impression that I would be managing your funds or your projects." Grant gripped the podium. "She is confused," he said, laughing nervously. "She works so hard. The stress, it gets to her. Lillian, please, go sit down." "I am not confused," I said. "And I am not affiliated." A hand went up in the front row. It was a man I didn't recognize, a heavy-set donor with a skepticism that radiated off him. If you aren't involved, the man asked, looking from me to Grant. Then who wrote the proposal we received? The one with the outcome tracking matrices? It was the question that detonated the facade. Grant opened his mouth to lie. I saw the fabrication forming on his lips. He was going to say he wrote it. He was going to claim authorship of my career. I didn't let him. The proposal contains proprietary methodology belonging to my consultancy, I said. It appears to be derived from a confidential strategy deck I developed for a corporate client. I did not share it with the initiative. My legal counsel has requested that all copies of that proposal be preserved for review. The words legal counsel hit the room like a bucket of ice water. You could feel the shift. It was physical, the social power, which had been loosely draped around my parents' shoulders a moment ago, evaporated. They were no longer the charming newcomers. They were liabilities. They were people who had brought a legal problem into a private club. Marjorie's mask broke. She didn't get angry. She collapsed. She let out a sob that was half theatrical, half terrified. "How could you?" she wailed, clutching her chest. "After everything we did for you. We gave you everything. We just wanted to include you. Why are you so cruel?" She looked at the audience, tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. "She hates us," she sobbed. "She has always hated us. We try so hard, and she just wants to punish us." It was a powerful performance. For a second, I saw people waver. The sight of a mother crying is a potent biological trigger. But then Dr. Keswick spoke. He didn't shout. He simply set his glass down on a side table with a deliberate click. "I think," Keswick said, his voice cutting through Marjorie's sobs, "that the room deserves clarity, not theatrics." He looked at Grant. "Grant, did you, or did you not, write the proposal?" Grant looked at Keswick. He looked at the room full of staring eyes. He looked at me. He couldn't say yes. If he said yes, and I produced the forensic evidence of the theft, he would be committed for fraud. He couldn't say no. If he said no, he admitted to the lie. He said nothing. He just stared at me with a hatred so pure it felt like heat. "I think that answers the question," Keswick said quietly. He turned to his wife. "We are leaving." That was the signal. Chairs scraped back. People began to stand. The spell was broken. The Parker family initiative wasn't a legacy. It was a scam, and the show was over. Celeste Wynne rushed forward, her face pale. She tried to step between me and the donors. "Please," she said, her voice high and strained. "Please, everyone, stay seated. This is just an administrative mix-up. We can issue a correction. We can resolve this." She turned to me, her eyes pleading. "Lillian, we will issue an administrative correction in the newsletter. Just let it go." "No," I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. "I want it in writing," I said. "Now, I want a statement signed by you and the Vanguard board acknowledging that I have no association with this group and that my name will be removed immediately from the website, the donor rolls, and the program." "Lillian, this is neither the time nor the place," Celeste began. "It is the exact place," I said. "And the time is now, before anyone writes a check." I held out the folder. Several donors stopped leaving. They watched, nodding. They were business people. They understood contracts. They understood leverage. They were waiting to see if Celeste would sign. Celeste looked at the room. She realized she had lost. If she refused, she looked complicit in the fraud. "Fine," she snapped. "Come to the back office." "No," I said again. "Here." I placed the folder on the small table next to the podium. Celeste walked over, her movement stiff. She picked up a pen from the podium. She signed the document I had prepared, a simple acknowledgement of non-affiliation. She shoved the paper back at me. "Thank you," I said. I picked up the folder. I didn't look at my parents. I didn't need to. I could hear Marjorie weeping softly, a sound that was now being ignored by the entire room. Grant was still gripping the podium, a captain refusing to leave the bridge of a ship that had already sunk. I turned and walked toward the door. The crowd parted for me. They didn't look at me with pity. They looked at me with respect. I was the one who had told the truth. I was the one who had protected the integrity of the deal. I walked out of the founder's room, down the hallway, and into the lobby. My legs started to shake the moment I hit the marble floor of the foyer. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving me hollow and trembling. "Lil!" Ethan was running toward me from the front entrance. He had been waiting in the car, too afraid to come in. He saw my face, saw the folder in my hand. "Did you do it?" he asked, breathless. "It is done," I said. "It is over." "Are they—" Ethan looked toward the ballroom doors. "Are they okay?" "No," I said. "They are not okay, but we are." The doors to the founder's room opened. Grant walked out first. He walked fast, his head down, looking at no one. He passed right by us. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at Ethan. He walked straight out the front door into the night. A man fleeing the scene of a crime. Marjorie followed a moment later. She wasn't crying anymore. Her face was streaked with mascara, but her expression was composed, cold, terrifyingly blank. She was holding her purse with both hands. She stopped when she saw me. Ethan took a step back, as if he expected her to hit me. Marjorie didn't raise her hand. She leaned in close, invading my space one last time. She smelled of expensive perfume and stale champagne. "You just ruined everything," she whispered. It wasn't a scream. It was a statement of fact. She didn't say, "You hurt me." She didn't say, "I'm disappointed." She said, "You ruined everything." She meant the status. She meant the money. She meant the fantasy. To her, the everything was the lie. I hadn't killed a relationship. I had broken a mirror, and she was furious that she could no longer see the reflection she wanted. "I know," I said softly. She stared at me for one more second, searching for a crack, searching for the guilt that had controlled me for 30 years. She didn't find it. She turned and walked out the door, following Grant into the darkness. I stood there in the brightly lit foyer. I watched the door close behind them. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't triumph. The unresolved state of it all. The fact that they would never understand, never apologize, never change, hung in the air like smoke. But the crushing weight was gone. The debt was canceled. I looked at Ethan. He looked scared, but he was standing tall. "Come on," I said, putting a hand on his shoulder. "Let's go home." We walked out into the cool night air. The fog had lifted. The city lights of Harbor Crest were glittering in the distance, sharp and clear and real. I had lost my family, but for the first time in my life, I owned my name. Thank you so much for listening to Lillian's story. It was a journey of difficult choices, but ultimately, it was about the courage to reclaim one's own identity in the face of immense pressure. I would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below telling me where you are listening from. Are you in New York, London, Tokyo, or somewhere else entirely? Also, if you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to Revenge Stories. I have many more tales of justice, drama, and resilience to share with you. What did you think of Lillian's decision in the end? Did she do the right thing? Share your thoughts in English in the comments section. I read every single one. Until next time, keep writing your own truth.